The translation device hummed, while Neil Grant watched 12 alien faces stare back at him. 3 months had passed since humans first met the galaxy's older civilizations. Now he sat in a room that smelled like copper and ozone, surrounded by creatures his grandchildren would only believe existed in dreams. The Thessian chancellor raised one crystalline hand. Light moved inside its body like trapped stars. It spoke, and the translator turned those musical sounds into words Neil understood. The standard integration protocol contains 400 pages. Your species will restructure all governments to match council standards. Your military forces will reduce by 80%. Your economy will adopt galactic currency immediately. All human colonies will accept council oversight. Your population growth will be limited to sustainable levels. Neil kept his face calm. Beside him, Colonel Rita Hayes shifted in her chair. On his other side, Dr. Alan Park typed notes on his data pad without looking up. "These terms seem rather restrictive," Neil said carefully. "Perhaps we could discuss modifications that would benefit both parties." The Viren trade minister laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. His 4 arms gestured dismissively. "Benefit both parties. You misunderstand your position, human. We are offering you a place in civilized space. Lesser species would kill for such generosity." The Sorrow's representative hissed agreement. Its scales caught the blue light of the chamber. "Your species has existed in space for barely a century. We have maintained galactic peace for 3,000 years. You will follow our guidance." Neil tried again. "Our governments represent billions of people with different cultures and beliefs. Restructuring everything would cause chaos." The Thessian chancellor waved one hand. The holographic display changed, showing images that made Neil's stomach turn. Planets stripped of resources, cities in ruins, species he had never seen before, working in massive mining operations under armed guard. 7 species refused our integration terms in the past millennium, the chancellor said. Its voice held no emotion. They were pacified. Their worlds now contribute meaningfully to galactic prosperity. Perhaps visual examples will help you understand the importance of cooperation. Rita's hand moved toward where her sidearm would normally be. The council had forbidden weapons in the negotiation chamber. Her fingers closed on empty air. Dr. Park stopped typing. He stared at the images with barely hidden horror. "You conquered them," he said quietly. "We civilized them," the Viren corrected. "They learned to accept guidance, as humanity will." Neil felt cold spread through his chest. These aliens spoke about genocide and slavery like discussing weather patterns. "I request a 48-hour recess to consult with Earth leadership," he said. The chancellor looked annoyed but nodded. "Very well, 2 days. Then you will sign or face the consequences of stubbornness." The meeting ended. As Neil and his team walked toward the exit, he heard the Benari diplomat whisper to a colleague. "Violent primitives, they will learn their place soon enough." The corridors of council stations stretched in directions that hurt to look at. Aliens of species Neil had not yet cataloged moved past them. Some stared with curiosity. Others showed clear contempt. They reached their assigned quarters. The door sealed behind them with a soft hiss. Only then did Rita speak. "They were watching our shuttle the whole meeting. I caught 3 different species checking tactical displays." She moved to the window. Their ship Unity hung in space, docked to an external port. Rita pointed at barely visible lines of energy. "See those, targeting lasers. The station's defense grid has weapons lock on our vessel." Alan joined her at the window. "Why would they lock weapons on diplomatic guests?" "Because we are not guests," Neil said. He sat down heavily. "We are prisoners being given terms of surrender." Rita turned from the window. "They planned this from the beginning. All those welcoming ceremonies, the cultural exchanges, the friendly tour of council facilities. They were assessing our weaknesses." And we were assessing theirs, Alan said quietly. He pulled up data on his pad. I have been documenting everything. Their military capabilities, political structures, historical conflicts. The Council maintains power through overwhelming force and economic control. Species that join give up sovereignty completely. Neil looked at the protocol document on his own display. Page after page of demands that would end human independence. Dismantling 80% of our military would leave Earth defenseless. Adopting their currency would crash every economy overnight. Their population limits would require forced sterilization programs. He closed his eyes. They are asking us to commit suicide as a civilization. They are not asking, Rita said. They are telling us. And if we refuse, they will do to Earth what they did to those 7 species. Silence filled the room. Outside, Council Station's lights glowed against the darkness. Sanctuary 7 curved below, peaceful and beautiful and utterly meaningless in this moment. We need to contact Earth, Neil finally said. Every leader, every government, every military commander needs to hear exactly what the Council demands, and what happens to species that say no. Rita moved to their communications equipment. I will set up quantum encryption, multiple layers. The Council cannot know what we tell Earth. Alan gathered his research. I will compile everything we have learned. Military assessments, political analysis, images of those conquered worlds. Earth needs complete information. Neil stood and walked to the window. He looked at Unity floating in space. Beyond it, somewhere in that vast darkness, Earth turned unaware of the knife held to humanity's throat. They think we are primitives, he said. Violent children who need stern parents to guide us into civilization. We are violent, Alan admitted. Human history proves that. Yes, Neil agreed. But we learned every lesson the hard way. We know what oppression costs. We know what freedom is worth. And we know how to fight when fighting is the only choice left. He turned back to his team. Set up that call. Earth needs to decide our future. Do we bow to these ancient empires and lose ourselves? Or do we stand alone and face whatever comes? Rita's fingers flew across the communications console. Connection ready. Quantum link established. Earth is waiting. Neil took a deep breath. Time to change everything. Mr. Secretary General, he began. I regret to inform you that the Galactic Council's integration terms are not negotiable. They are an ultimatum. Screens glowed in darkened rooms across Earth. Leaders who normally competed for power now sat together, watching one man's face explain how their world had changed forever. Neil's transmission reached Washington, Beijing, Brussels, Nairobi, Mumbai, Tokyo simultaneously. Presidents and prime ministers leaned forward as he spoke. Military commanders took notes. Intelligence chiefs cross-referenced data their own sources had gathered. The protocol demands we dismantle 80% of our military within 6 months, Neil continued. His voice remained steady despite exhaustion. All human vessels except designated patrol craft must be decommissioned. Our remaining forces would be insufficient to defend even lunar orbit. The UN Secretary-General interrupted. What about our colonies? Mars, Europa, the settlements in Alpha Centauri. Council oversight on all colonial expansion. They decide where we can settle, how many people we can send, what resources we can extract. Effectively, they control humanity's future in space. The Brazilian president spoke next. Economic restructure. What does that actually mean? Complete adoption of galactic currency within 1 year. Every government must abandon current monetary systems. The Council sets exchange rates. Based on their calculations, Earth's combined economies would be valued at approximately 12% of their stated worth. Silence followed that statement. Then angry voices erupted from multiple locations. 12%, that would cause immediate global collapse. Billions would lose their savings overnight. Supply chains would disintegrate. Neil waited for the chaos to subside. There is more. Population control measures. The Council determines sustainable growth rates for each species. For humanity, they propose limiting births to replacement levels only. No growth permitted for minimum 50 years. The Indian Prime Minister stood abruptly. They want to control how many children we have. On what authority? The authority of 3,000 years of galactic dominance. Neil replied, they have done this before. 7 other species refused similar terms. Those species no longer govern themselves. He shared the images the Viren had shown him. Ruined worlds, enslaved populations, strip-mined planets reduced to barren rocks. The room grew very quiet. Rita stepped into frame beside Neil. Our intelligence indicates Council warships have been repositioning for the past 2 weeks. They are moving into positions around our major colonies, long before these negotiations began. They never intended real negotiation, the Chinese premier said slowly. This was always going to be surrender or war. Correct, Rita confirmed. We were gathering intelligence while they assessed our defenses. Both sides were preparing for this moment. The Secretary General looked older suddenly. What are our options, realistically? Dr. Park appeared on screen. I have analyzed Council military capabilities based on 3 months of observation. Their technology is advanced but standardized. They have not fought a real war in millennia. Most conflicts were against species with inferior technology who surrendered quickly. And us? Asked the American president. We are different. Human military development never stopped. We have been fighting ourselves continuously for thousands of years. Every weapon system the Council possesses, we have already invented equivalent or superior versions. Our electronic warfare capabilities exceed theirs significantly. Our tactical adaptability is unmatched. The Russian defense minister leaned forward. You are saying we could win. I am saying a war would be costly for both sides, Allen corrected. But the Council believes we would lose quickly. That assumption is incorrect. Neil spoke again. Earth leadership must decide. Accept these terms and humanity becomes a client species. Our independence ends. Our future belongs to the Council. Or reject the terms and face military conflict with a civilization that has dominated the galaxy for 3,000 years. Debate erupted across every location. Some argued for acceptance. The galaxy was vast and powerful. Humanity could not stand alone against such forces. Better to survive as subjects than die as free people. Others argued for rejection. Humanity had not survived ice ages and world wars by surrendering. Every generation had fought for freedom. This generation would not be the one that gave up. The debate lasted hours. Neil watched faces he recognized from news broadcasts argue passionately for opposing positions. The weight of human civilization balanced on this decision. Finally, the Secretary General called for a vote. Each leader responded in turn. The final count was unanimous. Ambassador Grant, the Secretary General said formally, you are authorized to inform the Galactic Council that humanity rejects the Standard Integration Protocol. We will pursue independent development and request mutual recognition as a sovereign civilization. Understood, Neil replied, and if they refuse peaceful coexistence? The American president answered that. Then we defend ourselves. Alert all military commands. Begin preparations quietly. If the Council wants war, they will learn what happens when you threaten a species that has been practicing warfare since we discovered fire. Other leaders added their support. Resources would be mobilized. Defense systems activated. Industrial capacity shifted to military production. Every colony would prepare for possible attack. One more thing, the head of Earth Intelligence said. She looked directly at Neil through the screen. Our deep space monitoring stations detected unusual activity. Council warships have been moving into attack positions around our colonies for the past 18 days. They were never going to accept your negotiations. This was always going to end in conflict. Neil felt something cold settle in his chest. They planned to attack us regardless of our answer. Yes, the negotiations were theater, a way to make their conquest seem justified. They wanted you to reject their terms so they could claim you forced their hand. Rita swore quietly. We are already in their trap. Then we spring it on our terms, the Chinese premier said. Ambassador Grant, deliver our rejection tomorrow as planned. But know this, every human military force in every system will be ready. If the Council attacks, they will find we are not the helpless primitives they expect. The transmission ended. Neil sat in silence with his team. Tomorrow we walk back into that chamber, he said eventually. We tell them no, and everything changes. Rita checked her weapons, even though she could not carry them to the meeting. Old habits. They will threaten us, possibly detain us. Let them try, Neil said. Earth is ready. Humanity is ready. We have been ready since the first human picked up a rock to defend their family. The Council is about to learn that some species cannot be conquered. Alan pulled up data on his pad. Images of human history. Battles won against impossible odds. Civilizations that refused to submit. People who chose death over slavery. We are what happens when a species survives by being too stubborn to die, he said. The Council has no reference for that. Neil looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth turned. Billions of people lived their lives unaware that tomorrow their species would reject an empire and dare it to do its worst. Get some rest, he told his team. Tomorrow we make history. Cameras floated in the chamber like metal insects. The Thessian chancellor had arranged a signing ceremony complete with ceremonial pens and holographic displays ready to record humanity's submission. 12 council representatives sat in their positions, relaxed and confident. They expected surrender. They had seen this moment play out 7 times before with other species. First came denial, then negotiation, then acceptance of the inevitable. The pattern never changed. Neil entered the chamber with Rita and Alan following. He carried no documents, no data pads, just himself and the decision Earth had made. The Chancellor gestured to an ornate chair positioned before the Council table. Ambassador Grant, we trust your consultation with Earth proved enlightening. The signing ceremony is prepared. Once you accept the protocol, we can begin the integration process. Neil remained standing. Chancellor, I request permission to address the full Council. Of course, formalities must be observed. Please share Earth's gratitude for our generosity. Earth has reviewed the standard integration protocol in detail, Neil began. His voice carried clearly through the translation matrix. We have consulted with every major government, military command, and civilian authority. The decision was unanimous. The Council members leaned forward slightly. This was the moment they had orchestrated, the primitive species accepting its place. Humanity respectfully declines the integration terms. The chamber froze. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The translator hummed uncertainly as if questioning whether it had converted the words correctly. Then chaos erupted. Declines, the Sorrow's representative hissed. You cannot decline, this is not a negotiation. The Viren trade minister's 4 arms gestured wildly. Your species has no choice in this matter. You will comply or face consequences. The Chancellor raised one hand for silence. When it spoke, its voice had lost all diplomatic warmth. Ambassador Grant, perhaps you misunderstand the situation. Let me clarify. You will accept the protocol. There is no alternative. There is always an alternative, Neil replied calmly. Humanity proposes mutual recognition between sovereign civilizations. We offer peaceful coexistence, limited trade agreements, cultural exchange, and respect for established territorial boundaries. We will not threaten Council space. We ask only that you do not threaten ours. The Benari diplomat made a sound like wind chimes breaking. Mutual recognition. You believe yourselves equal to civilizations that existed before your species learned to make fire. Equal in sovereignty, yes, Neil said. We do not claim technological superiority. We claim the right to govern ourselves. The Chancellor's crystalline body darkened. You seem to believe you have leverage in this discussion. Allow me to correct that misapprehension. Holographic displays activated around the chamber. They showed human colonies. Mars, Europa, Titan, Alpha Centauri, dozens of settlements spreading through nearby space. Economic sanctions will begin immediately, the Chancellor stated. No Council species will trade with humanity. Your expansion will be contained. Naval blockades will enforce compliance, and if necessary, we will take corrective military action. The Sorrow's representative added eagerly. Your military forces are insignificant. Council fleets will enforce integration whether you cooperate or resist. The only question is how many of your people die before you accept reality. Other Council members joined in. They discussed invasion timelines casually, orbital bombardment strategies, acceptable civilian casualty rates. They spoke about conquering Earth the way people might plan a business trip. They were so absorbed in planning humanity's subjugation that they barely noticed Neil, Rita, and Alan standing up. Neil spoke quietly. This meeting is over. Humanity will remember who threatened us today. The Chancellor looked up, startled. Sit down, Ambassador. We have not given you permission to leave. We do not need your permission, Rita said. Her voice was ice. We are not your subjects. The three humans turned and walked toward the chamber doors. Stop them, the Chancellor commanded. Station security personnel appeared at the exits. The massive doors sealed with a heavy thunk. Magnetic locks engaged with clicks that echoed through the chamber. The Chancellor stood, its crystalline form glowing brighter with anger. You are now detained pending compliance review. You will remain in this chamber until Earth accepts our terms. Neil turned around slowly. For the first time, the Council members saw something in his eyes that made their ancient survival instincts scream warnings. They had just trapped a predator. Unity Code Phoenix, Neil spoke into his wrist communicator. We are detained. Alarms erupted across the station. Every human vessel docked at Council facilities simultaneously broke moorings and powered up weapons systems. The Unity and her escort ships lit up like small suns as reactors surged to combat levels. The Korlathi security chief tried to establish weapons lock on the departing human ships. His targeting systems crashed, then rebooted, then crashed again. Human electronic warfare packages were tearing through Council security protocols like tissue paper. Rita smiled. It was not a friendly expression. You have been scanning our ships for weeks. Did you really think we did not notice? Did you think we came unarmed to meet people who conquered 7 species? Dr. Park opened his data pad. Images appeared on the chamber's holographic displays, overriding Council control. Human history unfolded before alien eyes that had never seen such violence. Trench warfare, nuclear explosions, orbital strikes, cyber warfare, biological weapons, genetic modification, artificial intelligence conflicts. We have been fighting ourselves for thousands of years, Alan explained calmly. Every weapon you have, we invented and improved. Every tactic you know, we have used and countered. We are very, very good at war because we have never stopped practicing. The Council members stared at the images in growing horror. Species that had known only peace for millennia were seeing what happens when evolution favors aggression and intelligence equally. The Sorrow's delegate, a predator species itself, suddenly understood something the others had missed. You are a Deathworld species, a real one, not just survivors, apex predators. Yes, Neil confirmed. Earth is a hostile environment where everything tries to kill everything else. We evolved to dominate the most competitive ecosystem in known space. You thought we were primitives. We are survivors of a planet that breeds killers. The Chancellor tried to maintain authority. Your ships are leaving, but you three remain in our custody. This changes nothing. Neil pulled a small device from his pocket. This changes everything. The device blinked twice. Precisely placed explosives, smuggled into the chamber over weeks of negotiations, activated simultaneously. The massive doors blew outward in a controlled detonation. Smoke filled the chamber. Council security scrambled, but their weapons would not fire. Their communications were jammed. Their armor locked up as human cyber attacks paralyzed their systems. Neil, Rita, and Alan walked through the smoke toward freedom. You have chosen war, Neil said. God help you all. Fire suppression systems activated throughout the station. Water and foam sprayed uselessly at smoke that came from explosives designed to create chaos without actual destruction. Council security forces ran through corridors in confusion while their equipment failed them. Neil led his team through passages they had memorized during weeks of seemingly innocent tour. Rita moved like she had been born for this, her military training evident in every step. Alan stayed close, his data pad still transmitting information back to Unity. They reached the docking bay where their shuttle waited. The airlock door stood open, exactly as planned. Human cyber warfare specialists had spent 3 weeks mapping every system on Council Station. Now those systems belonged to humanity. Ambassador Grant, a voice called behind them. Neil turned. The Thessian Chancellor stood alone in the corridor, its crystalline body dim. No guards, no weapons. Just one very old being who had lived 3,000 years and never seen this particular future coming. You are making a terrible mistake, the Chancellor said. The Council will mobilize, our fleets will crush your scattered colonies, your homeworld will burn. Maybe, Neil agreed. Or maybe your fleets will find that 3,000 years of peace has made you soft. When was the last time Council forces fought an enemy that could fight back? The Chancellor had no answer. We studied your military engagements, Neil continued. 7 species conquered, all of them technologically inferior, all of them surrendered within weeks. You have forgotten what war actually means. And you remember. We never stopped. While you were maintaining peace through overwhelming force, we were killing each other with ever more creative methods. We have fought wars in trenches, in cities, in orbit, in cyberspace. We have deployed weapons that could end all life on our world. And we survived every single conflict by being meaner, tougher, and more stubborn than our enemies. The Chancellor's light dimmed further. So this is humanity's great strength, violence. No, Rita interrupted. Our strength is that we know the cost of violence. We know what war destroys. We choose peace whenever possible because we understand what the alternative means. But when forced to fight, we fight with everything we have learned from killing ourselves for millennia. The Council will never accept human sovereignty, the Chancellor stated. You are too dangerous to leave uncontrolled. Then the Council will learn a difficult lesson, Alan said. You cannot control people who would rather die free than live as slaves. 7 species surrendered to you. Humanity will not be the 8th. Neil started toward the shuttle again. You have a choice, Chancellor. Recognize our sovereignty and establish peaceful borders, or send your fleets against us and discover what happens when ancient powers meet a young species that has never learned to quit. This is not over, the Chancellor said. No, Neil agreed. It is just beginning. They boarded the shuttle. As it detached from the station, Alan pulled up data streaming in from across the galaxy. His eyes widened. You need to see this. The recording of their negotiations had been broadcast to every species in Council space, not through official channels. Human hackers had inserted the footage into entertainment networks, news feeds, commercial advertisements. Billions of beings watched council representatives casually discuss invasion, casualties, and conquest. Watched them threaten diplomats. Watched them imprison negotiators. Watched them reveal how they had treated 7 other species. The galactic network was exploding with reactions. The Benari, who had been council clients for 800 years, were asking questions their elders had forbidden. Why had their ancestors agreed to integration? What had they been threatened with? Were they free citizens or well-treated slaves? The Lycorians, who had lost their homeworld to pirates 5 centuries ago, were reviewing old records. Those pirates had used Council military technology. Council ships had been in the system when their world burned. The timing suddenly seemed less coincidental. 3 Council member species issued formal statements supporting human independence. Their representatives were already withdrawing from Council chambers. 30 hours, Alan said in amazement. In 30 hours, the Council's moral authority has collapsed. Rita was monitoring military channels. Council High Command is mobilizing fleets, but half their client species are refusing to send ships. Some are recalling their forces entirely. The shuttle accelerated away from Council Station. Unity and her escorts formed a protective formation around it. Human vessels had been designed to look less advanced than they actually were. Now that deception was ending. Weapon ports opened. Defense shields activated. Electronic warfare suites that had been running in passive mode switched to active. The human ships suddenly appeared far more dangerous than Council intelligence had estimated. "We are receiving transmissions from Earth," the shuttle pilot reported. "All human forces across colonized space have gone to maximum alert. Defense platforms are active. Colonial militias are armed. The industrial base has shifted to war production." Neil accessed the transmission. His face appeared on screens across human space simultaneously. "People of Earth and her colonies," he began. "The Galactic Council has rejected peaceful coexistence. They have threatened our sovereignty and imprisoned our diplomats. They believe we will surrender because 7 other species did. They are wrong." He paused, letting that sink in. "Humanity asks only to be left alone. We seek no conquest. We threaten no one. But we will defend ourselves. We will protect our colonies. We will never bow to tyranny. If the Council wants war, they will learn what happens when they threaten a species that has survived by being too stubborn to die." The message ended with simple coordinates. Every human ship, every defensive position, every colony ready to fight. Back on Council Station, the Chancellor watched that transmission with growing dread. Military analysts delivered their updated assessments of human capabilities. "We underestimated their industrial capacity by a factor of 4. Their military technology is at minimum equal to ours, possibly superior in electronic warfare and cyber operations. Their population includes 3 billion individuals with military training. Their tactical doctrine emphasizes adaptability and independent command structures that would be extremely difficult to counter." The Chancellor had one question: can we win? The analysts hesitated. "Define win. We could likely achieve military superiority through sheer numbers, but casualties would be unprecedented. The economic cost would destabilize Council finances, and victory would require occupying a hostile population of 18 billion humans spread across 47 colonies. The Council has never attempted occupation against a species this numerous or well-armed." The Chancellor looked at its advisors. 3,000 years of dominance ending because one species refused to submit. "Mobilize the fleets," it ordered, "but prepare negotiation options. If humanity wants war, we will give them war. But if they truly seek only independence, perhaps terms can be reached." "You would negotiate with them after they humiliated us." "I would avoid a war that might destroy us both," the Chancellor replied. "That is wisdom, not weakness." The galaxy held its breath. Two civilizations on the edge of war, one ancient and powerful, one young and desperate, both capable of terrible destruction, neither willing to back down. 6 weeks had passed without a single shot fired. The galaxy watched two civilizations circle each other like cautious predators, each waiting for the other to make the first move. Council fleets assembled at staging points throughout their territory. Hundreds of ships, thousands of years of accumulated military power. They formed up in traditional battle formations, ready to demonstrate overwhelming force. Human forces remained at their positions. No grand fleets, no massive formations, just defensive positions around every colony, every station, every outpost, waiting, ready. The Viren were the first to test human resolve. A blockade fleet arrived at the mining colony on Barlow's world. 12 council vessels against one human settlement of 8,000 people. The Viren commander sent a simple message: surrender or be destroyed. The colony administrator, a former military logistics officer named Carol Hayes, responded with equal simplicity: no. The Viren fleet moved into attack position, weapons charged, targeting systems locked onto the colony's infrastructure. Then human ships appeared. Not from nearby space. They had been hiding in the asteroid field, powered down, invisible to Council sensors. Now they activated, surrounding the Viren blockade. 6 human destroyers against 12 Council cruisers. Numerically, the Council should have won easily. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, every Viren ship was disabled. Not destroyed, disabled. Human electronic warfare had crashed their systems. Precision weapons had knocked out engines and weapons without breaching hulls. The Viren crews sat helpless in dead ships while human forces broadcast their surrender on every frequency. Carol sent a message to the Viren commander. Your crews are unharmed. We will provide life support and tow you to neutral space. Tell your council that humanity does not seek war, but we will win any war brought to us. The Viren fleet limped away with human tugs pulling their dead ships. Not a single human casualty. Not a single enemy death. Just a complete demonstration of tactical superiority that terrified Council military commanders more than any battle could have. Across the galaxy, reaction was immediate. If the Viren, one of the Council's strongest military species, could be defeated without losses, what chance did others have? 3 more Council client species formally withdrew from military obligations. They cited philosophical disagreements with Council policy. In reality, they simply refused to fight an enemy that could defeat them without killing them. The diplomatic situation was changing faster than anyone had predicted. The recording of the failed negotiations had spread to every corner of civilized space. Independent species, those not part of the Council, were watching with great interest. The Keltharian Federation, a powerful neutral alliance, sent ambassadors to Earth. They offered recognition and trade agreements. Others followed. Species that had remained isolated for centuries suddenly saw humanity as a potential ally against Council domination. The Council was losing its grip on galactic politics, not through military defeat, but through the collapse of its moral authority. Neil Grant stood in the newly established Earth Embassy on the neutral world of Crossroads Station. Representatives from 40 species waited to meet with him. Some offered trade. Others sought military alliances. Many just wanted to understand how one species had defied the Council and survived. They are calling us the Liberators, Rita said, reviewing intelligence reports. 8 species have declared independence from the Council in the past month, citing human example as inspiration. We did not set out to break the Council, Neil replied. We just refused to be broken by them. Dr. Park was analyzing galactic economic data. Council trade dominance is collapsing. Independent trade networks are forming with Earth as a central hub. Our technology is in high demand, especially our cyber warfare and electronic countermeasures. Species want to defend themselves the way we did. The Council must be panicking, Rita observed. They are, Alan confirmed. Internal communications we have intercepted show serious disagreement among member species. Some want to negotiate with us. Others demand military action. The Council is fracturing. A new message arrived. Official Council channels. The Thessian chancellor was requesting a meeting, not demanding, requesting. They want to talk, Neil said, reading the message. No preconditions, no ultimatums, just talks. It could be a trap, Rita warned. Everything could be a trap, Neil agreed. But if there is a chance for peace without more conflict, we should take it. The meeting was arranged on Crossroads Station. Neutral ground. No weapons. No guards, just diplomats trying to find a way forward. The Chancellor arrived with a small delegation. It looked diminished somehow, less bright. The weight of recent weeks showed in the way it moved. Ambassador Grant, the Chancellor began. The Council has reconsidered its position regarding human integration. Reconsidered or been forced to reconsider? Neil asked. The Chancellor made a sound that the translator rendered as bitter amusement. Does the distinction matter? The result is the same. The Council will recognize human sovereignty. We will establish formal borders. Trade will be conducted through mutually agreed channels. Military forces will maintain peaceful separation. And the 7 species you conquered, Alan asked, what happens to them? The Chancellor was silent for a long moment. That is an internal matter. No, Neil said firmly. You make it our concern when you threaten to do to us what you did to them. Those species deserve freedom as much as we do. You would demand we liberate worlds we control. That would destabilize half the Council. Then perhaps the Council needs destabilizing, Rita stated. Perhaps 3,000 years of peace through oppression is long enough. The negotiations lasted 3 days. In the end, the Council agreed to terms it would never have considered before humanity entered galactic politics. Recognition of human sovereignty, formal borders, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts with independent species, and a commitment to review the status of client species, with paths to independence for those who desired it. The galaxy was changing. The age of Council dominance was ending, not through war, not through conquest, but through the simple revolutionary idea that all sapient beings deserved freedom. The Benari were the first to declare independence under the new framework. Others would follow. Neil signed the recognition treaty on behalf of humanity. The Thessian Chancellor signed for the Council, historical documents that would reshape civilization. Why did you not destroy us when you had the advantage? The Chancellor asked privately after the ceremony. Your forces could have struck while we were disorganized. Because we are not conquerors, Neil replied. We are survivors who understand the cost of tyranny. We fought for our freedom. We will not take freedom from others. Even those who threatened you. Especially those. Breaking the cycle of violence is the only way to move forward. The Chancellor studied Neil for a long moment. You are either the wisest species I have encountered or the most foolish. Time will reveal which. Time reveals everything, Neil agreed. 2 years changed everything. The galaxy that humanity first encountered bore little resemblance to the one that existed now. Power structures that had stood for millennia crumbled and reformed in new configurations. The Galactic Council still existed, but its authority had diminished significantly. Of the original 12 member species, only 7 remained. The others had withdrawn or restructured their relationship to favor independence over integration. Carol Hayes walked through the streets of New Geneva, humanity's first city built jointly with alien partners. Benari floated through the air alongside humans. Lycorians conducted business in shops designed for 3 different body types. Former slave species from the conquered worlds lived and worked as free citizens. She passed a monument that had been erected in the central plaza. Simple stone with names carved in multiple languages and writing systems. The 7 species that had been pacified. Now all 7 were free, rebuilding with human assistance and protected by the new defensive alliance humanity had formed. Never again, the inscription read in common galactic, no species shall bow to another. Rita Hayes held a different rank now. Admiral Hayes commanded the Alliance Defense Force, a coalition of 20 species who had banded together for mutual protection. Her flagship, the Liberator, orbited overhead carrying crew members from a dozen worlds. The old Council military had dispersed. Some ships were decommissioned. Others were reassigned to species reclaiming their own defense forces. The age of one overwhelming power dictating terms had ended. In the Theshan home system, the former chancellor sat in a garden that had existed for 2,000 years. It no longer held political power. The new Theshan government, elected rather than appointed, had chosen younger leadership focused on adaptation rather than preservation. "You look troubled," a voice said. The Sorrow's ambassador approached, moving carefully through vegetation designed for different physiology. "I am considering history," the chancellor replied. "How quickly certainty becomes doubt, how rapidly the eternal proves temporary." "You believe we were wrong, the council's path." "I believe we were right for a long time. Peace is valuable. Stability matters. But we forgot that peace maintained through fear is not true peace. It is merely postponed conflict." The Sorrows settled onto a warming rock. Its species had been among the first to recognize human sovereignty. "My people were predators before we became civilized. We understood something about the humans that others missed." "What was that?" "They are predators who chose to be civilized, not creatures made peaceful through evolution or philosophy. They are violent beings who decided that cooperation served them better than conquest. That kind of choice is far more reliable than instinct." The chancellor's light pulsed thoughtfully. "We tried to force them into our system. We assumed they would submit like others had." "You assumed they were like the species you had encountered before, peaceful by nature or weak by circumstance. The humans are neither. They are dangerous by nature but wise by choice. And now they reshape the galaxy." "No," the Sorrows corrected. "They revealed what the galaxy could be. We chose to change ourselves." On Earth, Dr. Alan Park taught a class of students from 17 species. The University of Earth had become the premier institution for xenopolitics and comparative civilization studies. Students came from across known space to learn from the species that had changed everything. "The council made a critical error," he explained to the class. "They assumed that because they had power, they had wisdom. They confused their ability to dominate with the right to dominate." A Benari student raised a question. "But humanity has power now. You command the Alliance fleet. You have the strongest economy. What prevents you from becoming what the Council was?" "An excellent question," Alan acknowledged. "The answer is remembering. We remember what it felt like to be threatened. We remember the fear of losing our freedom. We remember that power without restraint leads to tyranny. And we remember that we nearly had to fight a war we might not have won. So humanity will never use its power. We will use power to defend ourselves and our allies. We will use influence to promote freedom and cooperation. But we will not use force to make others submit, because we know from our own history what that leads to. Every human empire that tried to rule others eventually collapsed. We learned that lesson in blood and fire. We will not repeat it on a galactic scale." Neil Grant stood in the Earth Senate, addressing representatives from every human government and colony. The vote was on whether to intervene in a conflict between 2 species in distant space. Neither species was part of the Alliance. Neither had direct ties to humanity. "We have the power to stop this war," one senator argued. Should we not use our strength to enforce peace? By what authority? Neil countered. If we impose peace on species that have not asked for our help, we become what the Council was. We replace their choice with our judgment. So we do nothing while they kill each other. We offer mediation. We provide humanitarian aid. We give them options, but we do not force them. Freedom includes the freedom to make mistakes, even tragic ones. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Humanity would offer help but not impose it. The distinction mattered. Later, Neil stood at the same window where he had once looked at Council Station and wondered if humanity would survive the next day. Now he looked at a galaxy that was chaotic, divided, and struggling to find new balance. But it was a free galaxy. Species determined their own futures. The strong protected the weak by choice rather than ruling them by force. Rita joined him at the window. The Council is petitioning to join the Alliance. All of them. The 7 remaining member species. They want to restructure as equals rather than leaders. They are asking if we will accept them. Neil considered that. The species that had threatened humanity now asking to join the organization humanity had created. What do you think? Rita asked. I think that if we refuse them, we prove their old beliefs right. That power determines who participates. But if we accept them as equals, we prove our principles. So we vote yes. We put it to the Alliance membership. Let all 20 species decide together. That is how free civilizations function. Rita smiled. 2 years ago we were negotiating for our survival. Now we are debating how to integrate our former enemies as equals. That is what victory looks like, Neil said. Not conquest, not domination, just the freedom to make our own choices and extend that freedom to others. Below them, Earth turned in space. Human ships and alien vessels moved in peaceful traffic. The galaxy was far from perfect. Conflicts still erupted. Disagreements persisted. But for the first time in 3,000 years, no single power dictated terms to others. The human age had begun not with weapons or threats, but with the simple revolutionary idea that all sapient beings deserved freedom. Some things were worth any cost to defend: dignity, sovereignty, choice. And some species, when pushed hard enough, would rather die free than live as slaves. The Council learned that lesson. The galaxy would not forget it. In the depths of space, human explorer vessels pushed outward, seeking not conquest but connection. Each ship carried the same message on its hull in every known language. We come in peace. We offer friendship. We respect freedom. Join us if you choose, but you will always be free to choose. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not technology, not military power, not economic might. Just the understanding that true strength was not the ability to dominate others. It was the choice not to. The stars stretched endlessly. Somewhere out there, species humanity had not yet met face their own struggles. Someday they might encounter humans and learn what one stubborn species had taught an ancient civilization. That freedom is not given, it is claimed. And once claimed, it must be defended, not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be.